Hey guys, what's going on? In this tutorial, I want to show you how you can create a pickaxe and integrate with make.com. The tutorial is no code, so ideal for anyone like me who is not a coder and that cannot write Python. We will be looking at four steps. One, how to create a pickaxe, how to create an action, second step. Then the third step is to create a scenario in Make. And finally, we'll do a bit of error handling to be able to fix some of the common issues. Let me show you the diagram of what we want to do. We're going to build a pickaxe and users will be able to chat with it. And then, based on some responses from the user, we will trigger a scenario in Make. Make will talk to a database. We will be using AirTable in this case to retrieve some additional information that will be returned to the pickaxe to enhance the conversation with the user. Working with a migration agency, and they want a pickaxe that allows the student that apply for a visa to find out the status of their application. So when the students interact with the Pickaxe, they can enter their client ID, and the Pickaxe will use a make action to retrieve the information dynamically from Airtable and return it into the chat. Okay, so let's start with building a new Pickaxe. If you go to the Pickaxe homepage, you will be able to create a form, a chat, or building a new Pickaxe automatically. In our case, we want to build a chat. So click on the chat, and you will need to fill out some details. One is the description, the prompt for the bot. I've created an easy prompt that you can, of course, customize depending on your use case. I'm going to change the model to Foro Mini because I like it more. And the title of the chatbot, Visa Assistant. Description provides an update of your visa application. There are a lot of different settings that you can play with, but we are not really interested in those for the purpose of this tutorial. What we are interested in is to create an action that talks to Make. Now, why do we need an action? The student, in our case, will want to get an updated status of his application, and what we will provide is very likely a client ID, for example, and we need to pass that information to Make and then to Airtable to retrieve dynamically the status of the visa application for that particular client ID. Okay, so we go under Act, and of course, we don't have any action connected to the Pickaxe yet. Now, Pickaxe has got a make webbook, basic make webbook action available. So we will start from that one and we will customize it a bit. You need to press these two arrows to clone the action. So if you press that one, you will be able to create a new make webbook action with your own parameters and code. So let's change the prompt. Once the user provides the client ID, send the information to Make and wait for the response. We will need to create or to add a Make webbook URL that we will find in Make. I'll show you how in a little while. For the time being, let's just put a number just so that we can actually clone the action. You press clone, and you will find your action under your action section. Will be the first one. So if you click on it, you will be able to further customize the action. As a name, we can call it Make Webbook with Response. For example, you can change the logo, the image if you like. The description sends a basic request to a Mac.com webhook and waits for the response. Don't worry about README for the time being, and the prompt has already been created previously. Now, in terms of function inputs, the only thing that we want to do is to send to make a client ID in this case, so that we can match that number with what we find in the Airtable database and retrieve the updated status automatically, or through make through the automation. So as an input, we want to have the client ID that the user needs to provide in the chat for the Pickaxe and make to be able to provide the status update. The client ID reference, for example, I don't know, 1250. Now, the make webhook URL can be added as an environment variable. It is actually recommended to do that so that it's not exposed in the code. But for the purpose of this tutorial, we are going to add the URL in the code just because it's easier while testing the action. So if you look up on top of the action section, you will have another tab called action code. This is where we need to add some code. As I mentioned before, I'm not a coder. I cannot really write Python. And if you are like me, what can you do? Well, you have two options here. One is to go, for example, in the Pickaxe community forum under community pickaxeproject.com. And for example, you can type make response. You will find a couple of posts that talks about make action with response. If you click on one of those, you will find some code that you can copy and paste into your action to start with. Now, if you look up the action code in your Pickaxe, you will notice that you have some line of codes already generated automatically by the system. So you don't need to import or to copy those lines again. So make sure that you skip the first section and start from the code after the comments. So these are the comments. So import everything that comes after that. Okay. Oh, sorry. Copy, and you can paste the code here. Okay. So that's an option. The other option that is probably better, because in this case you will need then to go through the code and trying to change some of the details based on what you're trying to achieve. For example, what we want to send to make.com is just the client ID in our case. So as a payload, we would need to change name, email, and country to just client ID. I don't even remember if it was a capital C. Yeah, capital C. So you will need to change the details here, remove everything that is not relevant, and fix some issues with the code. Of course, again, if you're not a coder, this might be too hard to do. So the other option is that you copy the whole code here from import to the end of the code, copy, and you use ChatGPT to create a new code for you. Once you are in ChatGPT, you can say, I want to customize the below code as follows. As follows. One, the make.com webhook URL is 123. 123. Two, the only payload is the client ID and the response from the webhook should contain the status, the visa status update. And then we copy the code that we got from the community forum. And let's see what ChatGPT tells us to do. Great. So if you remember, we don't need to import the first few lines. So we only need everything that comes after the green section. I'm going to copy all these, copy, and we can paste the code here. Let's have a look at the code. The URL is 123, but we need to replace it with the actual webbook URL. Yeah. The payload is just the client ID. The response should contain the visa status, which is here. Now we'll look into it later, but it looks like the code has been tweaked as we need. So the first thing that we need to do now is to test if the information is actually sent to make.com. So what you need to do is to save the action, make sure that you connect the action. You will find the action under the connected action section. And next, we need to go into make.com and create a new scenario, grab the make.com URL, webbook URL, and add it back into the code so that we can actually send the client ID from the pickaxe to make. So let's move to make.com for a second. Now, if you're new with Make, sign up for a free account, and then on the side menu, you have what is called a scenario. You can click on it, and you will end up in a page like this one, where you can add specific modules, which are essentially integrations with third-party applications. We want to add what is called webhooks. The webhook listens to data coming from another application, in our case, Pickaxe. So we need to give Pickaxe the URL where to send the data. So we create a custom webhook. Then you need to add a webhook. Let's call it Pickaxe Make Integration. You can use any name. Save, and you will find the the make URL here. So you can copy this URL to your clipboard, and then we go back to Pickaxe. We edit the action, edit, and in the action code where you have 123, you're gonna replace that with the webhook URL that you got from Make. Now I'm gonna delete my URL, my webhook, so don't use the same code or number because it's not gonna work. You need to create a new scenario, Make, and get your own webhook URL. Save the action. And now we are ready to test. Before we do that, a final step is to go into Make again and click on Redetermine Data Structure. Why is this important? Of course, you can send any type of data to Make. It could be a string, could be a number, could be an email. So Make doesn't really know what to expect. You can for example, edit the webbook and tell Make what to expect. Or you can click this button, send the data, and Make will determine the type of data automatically. So let's click on redetermine data structure. So now Make is listening to incoming data. So we want to go into our Pickaxe and test it. Can you help me with the visa status? Let's see if it works. My client ID, my client ID is 1250. So when you see the black circle spinning, it means that the action has been triggered, and yes, the data was sent successfully to Make. That means that Make has received the data correctly. Now, if we activate the action, we need to save it. If we activate the action and click, for example, on run once, now Make is waiting for data coming from another application. We First of all, of course, the data was sent successfully, but we haven't received anything back into Pickaxe because we haven't set it up yet. So you will see this error. Don't worry about that. We just want to make another test. Can you check again, just to see what Make is actually receiving and if it is receiving the correct data? So he's now sending the client ID, the 1250, to Make. If we wait, yes, we got the data into Make, and as you can see, we get the client ID equal to 1250. That is what the user provided to the chatbot. Great. So we have successfully integrated Pickaxe with Make, in that we can send now data into Make. Now the next step is to find the information that we need to provide back to the user in Airtable, and then send information back to the Pickaxe. How do we do that? We need to add the integration with Airtable. So how do we connect Airtable to Make? We need to create a database in Airtable, which is pretty simple. Again, it's not the purpose of this tutorial to explain how to create scenarios in Make, or in this case, a new database in Airtable, but I'll give you a very quick overview. So if you go to Airtable, you can sign up for free and you can build bases. A base is essentially a spreadsheet, like a Google spreadsheet or an Excel. You have different type of fields, and every line is a student, whatever you want to record information about. So if you click on the field type, you will see that you have a lot of different options available, right? So in our case, we want to have a unique identifier of the person, of each person in our database, in our case, students. So for us would be the client ID, which is going to be a number. We don't want decimal places. Now, one of the number that we used in the test was 1250. So let's use 1250, for example. Then we have, hold on, edit field. Then we can add another entry, 860, 2244, whatever. 1, 2, that's fine. Then maybe we have the name of the person, uh, which is just a single line of text. Mark, John, Lucy. Then maybe we want to have the visa type, and because we only have a bunch of options, we might use the single select option, student visa. We might have the tourist visa, skill migrant, and then the status. We already have the single select, so approved, rejected, in progress. You can have as many options as you like. Okay, so let's imagine that this information is updated regularly in the database based on the business and the clients that they have and the status of the applications that they process. So approved, in progress, rejected. I don't know why I've got uh, some duplicates. I've changed that. So the data is now clean. Okay, so every time a user interacts with a pickaxe, the pickaxe will need to find information in this database and return the answer to the user through make. Okay, so this is our database in Airtable, and now we need to connect make to Airtable. Thankfully, we have an Airtable module, Airtable, and we can search records. Now, you will need to connect your own Airtable database to make. You can do it by adding it and follow the instruction. I will quickly connect mine. If you connect that successfully, you will find the same fields in that you have in Airtable here listed in Make. And yet we want to retrieve all these fields. The way you do that, so as you know, the webbook is receiving the client ID number from Pickaxe. You need to tell Airtable that you're looking for the information about the client ID that corresponds to the number that comes from the Pickaxe. So the formula you need to use is client ID in curly brackets equal the client ID that we get dynamically from Pickaxe. We limit the responses to one because we only have unique client. And that's it. If we now test this module, if you right click and run this module only, and we use, for example, 1250, if the module is connected successfully to Airtable, we'll look up for the client ID with number 1250 that corresponds to number 1250 and find the information related to that client. In particular, the name, the visa type, and the status. So if we run this module, done, as you can see, we gave as an input the 1250, the number 1250 as a client ID, and we got as an output the name, Mark, the client ID, 1250, the status of the visa, approved, and the type of visa, it's a student visa. So we now want to return this information to Pickaxe. How do we do this? We need to add another module in Make, which is a webbook response module. If you click on Webbook, you will find a Webbook response module. We need to change the body of the response. to make sure the Pickaxe can interpret the data that it receives. Now, how do we change the body? Again, we can use ChatGPT for it. So if we go back to ChatGPT, we need to say, I want to create the response body in make.com, the webbook response body in make.com, that so that it, it returns the name and visa status when successful. Write the JSON code. Okay, we just copy this code and we go back into make. Now the status is already here on top, so I'm gonna remove the status and just leave the data and the visa status. Now we need to grab these fields dynamically, so the name should come from the AirTable module. That was the previous module, and the visa status as well. The status. Okay. Now, if you test this module without an incoming webhook, you will get an error mark to 50 because it doesn't know where to send it back to. So that's the error that you will be getting. So this module only works if the initial webhook has been triggered. Okay. So now, if you remember, the code that we added in Pickaxe was expecting a visa status input, and we didn't add the name as a variable that we would be expecting from make. So maybe let's go and change this piece of code in Pickaxe, because would be good when we respond to a user to address him by name, rather than give him or her the status update. So if we go back into the Pickaxe code and we look at the code, we see this is the payload, and the response, even if we don't understand anything about coding, you see that the response is looking for a visa status. So from this point onwards, where it says check if the request was successful, there might be part of the code that need to be tweaked. So you copy this code and go to ChatGPT again and say, please change this code to take into account that um, getting to getting the status and the name as input. It's from the webhook response. This is the original code. Okay, so let's replace this code, copy code. We go back into the Pickaxe and we replace this code. I'm not 100% sure the alignment is correct. So again, I'm going to use ChatGPT to find out. Um, is the alignment correct? Yeah, it was not correct. Corrected code. So I'm going to copy again everything that comes after the comments into the pickaxe to hopefully get the correct alignment. Because in Python, it's important to have the correct alignment, or otherwise nothing is going to work. Okay, that's better. Uh, Great. So if we save the action, we can give it a go. Let's make sure the scenario is active in Make, and click Save, and we can test the action and see if it works. Can you check again? It worked. Approved. It seems to be the status application. So 1250. Let's go back to AirTable for a second. 1250 was Mark. Student visa approved. Okay, so I just want the pickaxe to address the person by name in the prompt. I'm going to change the instructions slightly. Help the user with inquiry and retrieve the status of his application. Once the visa status has been retrieved, address the user by name and provide the updated information. The application will be make action. And we can test it again. Can you help me with another application? I'm gonna check another number, 1860. Okay. 1860. Well, still not addressing the user by name. 1860, it's in progress. So you retrieve the correct status, but it's not addressing the user by name. Maybe what we can do is to change here, help the user with his inquiries and retrieve the name of the user and the status of his visa application. Once the visa status has been retrieved, use the user's name to respond and provide the status of the application. Can you check for? I'm gonna do another test for the final for Lucy 2244. Can you check 2244? Okay, still not what we want. So I'm gonna tell him how I want the response to be structured. So for example, we could say the response should be in this format. Hi, name, the status of the application, of your application, of your visa application is visa status. Feel free to contact us if you have further inquiries. Contact us by phone for inquiries. Let's try again for 450. Let's see what happens. Great. Now we got the format that we want. So how do you handle errors? Well, if you remember the diagram that I showed you at the beginning, we have a pickaxe sending information to make retrieving some information from Airtable, and then sending the information back to pickaxe. Now, the first error could be when you send information to make. If the URL has not been set correctly, make is not going to receive any data, and that's easy to fix and find out, because when you trigger the action in Pickaxe, you will what you could do is to go into make, run the scenario once, and trigger the action in Pickaxe. If the webhook is receiving data, you will see the bundle that make received. Otherwise, this red circle will keep spinning. So, and you will get an error in Pickaxe. That means that the Pickaxe is not able to send information across to make. In that case, I would recommend going to. Let me stop this. I would recommend going into the Pickaxe code and check the URL again. So if you go in the code again, action code, and check the URL. First of all, check that you have copied the right webhook URL, and make sure that they are within quotation mark. So if you forget the quotation mark, you will get the error or an error. So always make sure that you have the quotation mark for the URL. If the webhook works, again in Make, you will be able to check all the runs. If you click on one of the scenario runs that we had before, you will be able to see what Mike received from Pickaxe. The client ID is correct. The next step is to make sure that Make integrates correctly with whatever third-party application you're using, in this case, Airtable. And you should be able to see, again, an input bundle and an output bundle with information that you want to return to your Pickaxe. On the assumption that the make scenario is successful, you should be able to receive this information back into the Pickaxe. If you're not, first of all, make sure that the variables are named correctly. So the name and the visa status should be named exactly as you find here in the code. Okay, name and visa status. If that's correct, and still you're not receiving anything back from Make, and the scenario Make is successful, my recommendation is to go into ChatGPT and copy the code, copy the error that you get in the Pickaxe, and you can even ask ChatGPT to add some code to help you identify what the error could be, and just play with it until you understand what the issue is. And of course, lean on the community, the Pickaxe community will be able to help you out with any issue you might have. Hey guys, that's a wrap as far as the tutorial is concerned. I really hope that you got something out of it and you will be able to build successful pickaxes. Thank you very much. I'll see you soon.